for staying put. We're going into a panel session, and we have a topic before us, and it is investing with purpose, and with a rider transforming community through wealth. Now, what this is all about is, all right, we are believers. How do we, yes, we are talking about wealth building, wealth creation, but for what purpose? Right? There is a purpose, and God is putting wealth into our hands. And it is for transforming life, for transforming communities. Okay, we are the salt of the earth. That's what Matthew chapter 5, verse 14 says. We are the salt of the earth. We are the light of the world. And the meaning of salt, salt gives taste, salt preserves. So we are expected to impact a generation. And light, you know, talks about giving visibility. So we're supposed to create pathways, for communities. Now, talking about making impact. A lot of people want to make impact. Believers want to make impact. Um, uh, some people know my story. Dr. Steve, know my story. I, you know, I'm someone that loves making impact. All right, okay, want to make big impact. But it's one thing to want to make big impact, but it's another thing to know the process, okay, of making impact. So
I think Mr. Glory's network is not working. By the way, guys, there's a Q
just
and A
go.
segment.
So I want you
There's a Q and A segment. Can you guys
about
drop your questions? If you have questions for me, can you guys hear me? If you can hear me, tap, I can hear you. If you have questions for me, or Mrs. Joanna Eyileka, or Maiwa, feel free to drop your question. There's a Q and A segment um, on this Zoom. Just go there and drop. Of course, those of you on YouTube, Facebook, or IG, you can drop it on those panel. I appreciate if IT can find a way to project questions from other social media platforms to us, so we'll be able to actually answer all the questions. But Mayowa, welcome. How are you today? I hope you're doing great. Your video is off, Mayowa. Um, but I want to guess that the question, and one of you can answer, and I would also try and add that Mr. Glory was trying to ask, is how do Christians, believers, balance the place of wanting to make impact and making income so that you can sustain the impact, right? Because church people are used to, God call me, God send me, yeah, without a pause, like SD anything. Once God say it, yeah, move, right? So we begin to do things that, we might not necessarily be in the financial situation to do. I've been there too. I've had seasons where I just do things, and now, of course, I look back and I realize that they were just not wise. It's just the way we were raised, and I ran into many, many troubles because I just was too much in a hurry to make impact, but I didn't have the resources to do it, and I eventually put family in trouble because resources that were just like Maya was talking about mismanagement, resources that yes was meant for something else, but in the goal to make impact, right, and your hunger and what is burning in you, right, the hunger to just change your world, we don't balance income and impact. So who wants to speak on that? How do we do that? Myra, do you want to go first?
Okay, yes, sir. Thank you so much, Dr. Steve. So, income and impact for me, I think there's a feedback
It's not. I'm not sure
Income
it's
and
from my.
impact.
It's not from my end. It's from your end, Myra. We can hear you very well.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it might
Okay,
be.
I'll go ahead. So impact and income for me is that everyone who wants to play in the two space must learn how to balance it. Now, balancing it means that when income comes into your hand, you must have a structure. And if it is impact that has gone out first, you must also have a structure. So for me, gaining impact, putting impact outside there and putting income is just being settled with structure. So in one of the meetings, Dr. Reverend Sam said that anytime people ask him for money, he would always want to, he always feel guilty if he's not doing those, if he's not helping those people. And he said on this particular day, this person asked for money from them, and he wanted to support this person. And I think Reverend Sam said he supported. And while he was praying later in the day, the Holy Spirit said, "You don't ask me before you help. Don't you know that sometimes I am teaching, you are not allowing these people to complete my training, because when they come to you, you give them. And when you give them, you are stopping a cycle, which is what they are going through." And Reverend Sam said, he was apologetic, he was begging Holy Spirit that, he never knew, he just wanted to help and all of that. And there's a scenario where Reverend Sam said, you cannot help everybody because you are not El Shaddai. And he said he learned that too. So for me, when it comes to impact, when it comes to income, we all need to have a structure and a plan so that we will know what to do and what not to do. And we are not going to be moved by, a lot of time we are moved by emotions, and we later call it that we are led. We must split it and say, okay, this is what I want to do. This is what I can do, and this is my plan. And with this, I will even ask God which route I will go. For some of us, it might be that you partner with a foundation. For some of us, it might be that we will do it ourselves. For some of us, it might be that your foundation will be taking care of education. Some will be taking care of food, feeding, like the way Dr. Stephen launched the Mercy Food Bank, So that's basically it. So I feel that it's more to be structured so that you don't just spend the money anyhow. And you see, I've seen people that because of emotional blackmail, because of impact, they are down till date. A pastor was sharing with me the other time that his eldest, he does not have a house, but to the extent at which other people have begged him, he has built house for other people, he has roofed for other people, but he has not even roofed one or lay one block for himself. And not entirely that he gave them all the money, but they just say, sir, we are roofing our house, so it remained 200,000. I said, we just send it to them. And he just got thinking, and he said to himself, all these people, they are living in their houses, he's doing well, he's a good impact, but he's not even reconciling with his personal finance. So I think having a plan, a better structure, distribution channel will help to be able to make impact and keep our income. If not, because two poor people cannot help themselves. One needs to be saved to save others. That will be my part. Thank you so much.
Powerful. Come on, let's start from Myra. Isn't that interesting? Okay, Mrs. Joanna, you can go ahead with yours. By the way, you don't look like a grandmother, so you've really taken good care of yourself. And I think etiquette has helped when you have etiquette coaching background. So, is she there, Mr. Adeirega? Mr. Adeirega, are you there? Okay. So, well, let me add to that.
Hello, Dr. Tayo. Apologies, I was having a little challenge with my computer.
Hey, can you put on your video now?
Yes, I will do that.
Okay.
I will do that.
I think you're trying anyway. I'm conscious that all these things is not your generation thing. I see how much you put on Instagram. I've been asking myself, who is helping this woman put all this?
We are trying.
Who is helping grandma put all these things? We're helping you to be Gen Z compliant.
Yes,
Okay.
I'm known as Gen Z.
Really, Gen Z mama. Yes, so do you want to add to what Mayo has said?
I believe, I'm sorry, I was, there's a terrible echo in my voice, but can you please repeat what was?
You guys help them work on the echo. They said there's an echo. So the question basically is balancing between impact and income. You know, a lot of us as Christians, we have a lot of great dreams, and there are a lot of things we want to do, and sometimes we end up running into trouble in the course of having great visions and great dreams because we mismanage the little resources we have, and then we begin to struggle financially just because we want to help people. So balancing that, impact and our own personal finance, our income, so that we don't end up desiring to help people, but then we create a bigger mess for ourselves. So
yes, I think for me personally, I think first of all, people look at where you are, what generation you are, and they believe that you are comfortable and you have plenty of money to spare to help out. I think it's really good to help out, and I try my best to help the Gen Zs because I know some of them have got great talent and they're serious about their lives. Maybe their parents can't afford it. Now, we have a welfare section in our church, for example, but obviously the welfare cannot accommodate everyone. So they have particular people, including myself, that they come to and they will ask for assistance. But, you know, I ask young Gen Zs to give me a business plan. Tell me more about what it is. What can you do to help yourself? The pressure right now, to be sincere, is a lot because there is no money for a lot of people, and you have to be aware of that. And as a Christian, as a lover of God, we know that the finances we have are not just for ourselves alone. We have to be there to assist. And I have assisted quite a lot of people. I don't expect the return from them. It's just an honor for God to give me that supply to be able to help others. But sometimes it becomes too much. It becomes too much because, you know, the way of the economy right now, some time ago, you could give someone 5,000 naira and it was enough. But these days, if you give someone 20,000 naira, they are still looking that, oh, you know, this is too small. So I think we all need wisdom as to how to handle our finances from day to day. Thank you.
For that, and I don't know if IT can bring Mr. Glory up to continue his questions. One of the things I will add to that is the need to probably put some things into percentage, and I learned this from Reverend Sam. I used to, in fact, I remember sharing this with Reverend Sam. I heard there's so echo. Can please you guys look into this thing? I learned this from Reverend Sam, by the way, because I used to have that problem of different people asking me to help, and in the quest to help people, I then become poor myself. I'm called the crap mentality, right? One person's at the top, everybody pull them down, unconsciously, of course. Another word for it is called black tax, where if one person in the family seems to be doing a bit okay, everybody else is on them for one help, and it can affect their own ability to even stand on their 2 feet. And Reverend Sam puts it this way, that you need to have a budget for everything. And one of the things that help his finances, Mr. Adeyeye, like how your video is off again. One of the things that helped his finances was when he decided to start putting percentage of how much he wants to give people, whether it's family or anybody. And at some point, what he budgeted will finish, and you see I have way more people that have requested. And all he had to learn to do is to tell them, well, you need to wait for the next month. Because as I earn salary, a portion of that, and whether you're a businessman or professional, you must have a salary. It's one of the ways you balance your life. So I say, hey, till next month when my salary comes, and whatever is, is left to board, you should know you're on a queue. So yours, let's assume this was in June. Yours may not even come in July or August. Because there's Uncle Jide, there's Brother Niyi, there's Sister Adukbe, who have asked way earlier. And, I have to attend to them because their request came earlier before yours. And I had to structure it that way. And for me, when I started planning that, it changed my life. Even my dad, I had to place him on a budget. Of course, when I see him, most times he will tell me the money is not enough. I'll take him more loan, and I'll tell you, and that, this was many years ago. I've always been a bit, visible because I led digital marketing, social media, were the early pioneers in blogging and social media way back. And so, because I was always visible, my dad would even tell me, my neighbor, the person I went to borrow money from, said he saw you. You are doing well. I said, well, whether he saw me or not, I'm the one that know my pockets. Okay. So, what I can afford is what I am giving you. And I'm happy I was that tough with my dad, because years later I was able to build him a house and buy him a car. And if I had been given everything I had, I would never have gotten to a point where I could afford to comfortably build him a house and buy him a car. It would never have happened. So there are seasons of your life where it's okay, right, if you get to the top first before throwing down the rope to help other people. It's okay if you get to a river and you are 100 of you and you led them to that river, but the boat you have can only carry one person to the other side of the shore. But at the other side of the shore, there's a bigger boat that can now take 100 people. It's okay if you are the only one that goes with that one boat and save yourself first before you come back with a 100-seater boat to take others as well. It's okay to do that. And I think that's the answer.
I think also we are in the period and the speed issues and perhaps we have so much go out so this has become how do you do that?
Are you asking a question? Because I'm not sure I heard you clearly.
Okay. I said
yes.
And by coincidence, they are called from the altar. And you have who have requested on it. How do you have want they can't help
Okay, so if I get you, because at some point it was freezing or cracking, you were talking in relation to situation whereby a minister come to church and is encouraging people to sow and is led that people should sow, and you don't have the money, and sometimes you even made a pledge and you're struggling to pay the pledge. I also have been a victim of this for many years. I made pledges before that I couldn't pay, and the entire year I felt the reason why things were tight and I was struggling was because of the vow I made, and I couldn't pay, and I felt God was punishing me. I think it took a man of God to pray one day and say, look, I absolve you of any vow you have made in church, and you couldn't pay. And the person was able to explain, and I think my pastor in one of those meetings, he was honest also to share this, that a vow is always from what you already have, right? God did not ask Abraham to give an Isaac, he did not give him. God never told Abraham to go and sacrifice Isaac before he was born. Isaac was born first before God now say, give me that which you have. So it's very important for us as Christians to know that giving money that has not come into your hand is not the right way to vow. You vow on something you already have, right? Of course, there are other types of vow that are not on material things, where you say, if you give me a son, I will dedicate him to God, right? Or he will serve God, all of that. You and I know, even in those contexts, there's no guarantee. You can say, you grow, take your child to church all the time. By the time he grows, he can decide to say, he's not going to church. So we must, and I had to work on that. And there are some things that are not your money. Thank God for my wife. I once had an experience like that where I'd given her money for school, and she went to sow the entire money for her children's school fees in church. And then it was time to pay children's school fees. I said, I've sown it. And I had been delivered before her. And I had to sit her down and say, Madam, children's school fees is not your money. You cannot sow what is not yours. Your husband gave you this money to pay the school fees. Many entrepreneurs make the same thing in business in the name of tithing, okay, where you tithe your capital. That's not tithing. Abraham paid tithe on his profit. So we must understand these things, and I think sometimes we do the things of God with a lot of emotions, and a lot of us also we need to be do I call it brainwash? We need to go over some new set of content, some new set of information. I remember sharing with Reverend Sam on phone. I said, if it was not you that preached that message on giving, there's nobody that will have delivered me from this. Right? Nobody, because I'm just going to say it's the devil. Right? It took that it was a pastor telling me to budget giving, budget my offering. Pastor of a big church. If it was anywhere else, even if it was a public speaker, motivational speaker, I say, no, you are not a pastor. The devil is speaking through you. So I don't believe what you are saying. So I remember thanking Reverend Sam that it took, because it was at that level in pastoring, I could believe him, and that is the reason why I'm here financially. Because I am also that kind of generous giver. I literally can empty everything. I am exceptionally and money doesn't mean anything to me, so I can empty. But I kept emptying, and I'm struggling, and I'm blaming God, and I'm still asking the same God that didn't send me message, that I wasn't hungry, right? Blaming the same God for why my finances are not where they should be. But it was me not investing, right? Once I see money, I want to give it, I want to sow it. And this charity that we're doing, the Selecta Foundation, used to be called Infinity Foundation, I landed into so many trouble, so many. So I had to go through a whole series of money, and then I did that series, I think, over 12 years, 10 years ago or so. It was a whole series of money. I bought the entire tape and I listened again and again and again and again. before I could now feel okay, because sometimes it's just this guilty conscience, right? They're just telling you are not making impact, you are not. Some these things are in phases. So at some point I had to reduce the foundation work, because we were always on TV, we're big. I shut down everything, and it was gradually from the little we're making, out of the little profit, I'll go and do my private thing privately, till we then grew back into this level of visibility that people now see with our charity project. For a particular 4 years or so, we were literally silent, and it wasn't really like as if we're not doing, but we had to scale it down, to the real size that was healthy and was right for where my finances and that of my family was at that point, so that the business could grow. And today that has now also helped the business to really, there are things my background, I don't share what we do, kingdom wise. It's not how I was trained. But you'll be shocked how much one is able to do today in those areas. But one had to take a back seat at some point, to restructure and then come back. A gentleman was also asking about him using how he can get free mentorship. Right? There's no free mentorship. I'm just giving scholarship, to some people, 40 people for the $20,000 scholarship, and 2,500 people for the $1,000 scholarship. Join the community and they'll give the information on that. Can somebody again please drop the link to the community so that someone said I have a question. Yes, we said drop your question in the Q&A box and we'll be able to answer it. Drop your question in the Q&A box and we'll be able to answer it. Okay, do you have more questions, Mr. Glory? Next.
Sure. All right. So are we getting value? Let's put it there. So quickly, the question is going towards mindset shift. We're getting a lot of mindset shift right now. I want to ask, this may be a funny one, but I need Dr. Stephen to speak to this. I want to ask Mayowa if you're there.
Yeah, Mayowa is here.
Let me ask you first. Oh, good. Is there anything like generational curse? And how can we overcome it? Go ahead, Mayowa.
Okay, so there is generational curse and there's generational blessing. And it's direct. Why is it so? It's because when it comes to pattern, there is pattern for blessing. There's also a potential inherited pattern that one can. So, for example, when Abraham, the wife, housemaid, got pregnant for Abraham. When it got to Isaac, housemaid got pregnant for Isaac. When it got to Jacob, housemaid got, and it took Joseph a lot to fight housemaid not to get. So it's possible, but I don't call it pattern. I don't call it causes. I call it pattern. So why do I call it pattern? Is that there are good pattern and there are bad pattern. So you can identify the pattern that is wrong. In the actual sense, you can call it cause, but I call it pattern that you have to stop. I know of a family that the firstborn, the person that gave birth to him, he did not marry her, and he ended up marrying the second wife, the woman that gave birth, the second woman that he married, which is now the current wife. The second born, the first wife that gave birth, the guy did not marry that one, and he married the second wife that gave birth. That was when the legal. The third born, that was a woman, the man that he got married to and gave birth to, he did not marry that one too. And it happened to the fifth born. Unto the fifth guy, is the fifth guy that fixed it. So for me, it is not a cause, I don't call it a course, I call it pattern. So you have to sit down and check, did your father buy a house? Did your father bought a land? Did your parent add? So you have to see all the things that your grandfather did not do, all the things that your own father, your mother did not do. That is right. You have to identify it and now, excuse me, and now fight it and correct it. So, for example, my dad did not buy land. As a matter of fact, he went to a place with his friend, and his friend moved out his own salary and bought a land. And my father told them that he was coming back to buy it. He's 75 years old now. His own grandfather was an trained engineer. And as a trained engineer, he moves from places to places in their days. So they always move family. So he had reason not to even buy a land or build a house, but he had a family house that was also inherited in the village. So when I traced to the roots, I realized that if I am not deliberate, I will also not buy a land. Are you seeing it? Or build a house. By the grace of God, I have a family house for my parents that we built in December. So I've broken that gene, and I don't have one land. I don't have 50 acres. I don't have 100 acres. I have multiple acres. So, but I had to go to my roots and say, what are the patterns that these people have built? So I really don't call it courses. I call it patterns. We need to now identify those patterns prayerfully, deliberately. Sometimes some things that we call pattern are just something we overlook. Okay, like my dad, he wanted to travel out as at when he wanted to travel out. So if he had traveled out, he had a good reason not to buy land. Aha, you see now. So, but he overlooked it that he was going to travel out. Aha, but he later did not travel out. It was me that still traveled out, went outside, traveled outside the country, broke the gene. Now my family had traveled out. My junior brother is based in UK, you know. But if I don't fix that thing and list it out, probably till now, we will still be saying we will travel, we will travel, we will travel. So I want to help us today to let us know that it is pattern, identify the good one and the bad one, prayerfully, by intentionality, fix it, and you're good to go. That's my contribution.
Thank you. Dr. Steve was speaking recently, and he said, at the point in his life was, disseminating bulk estimates when he was doing bulk estimates business. And he found out that, things were not moving. And then,
Thank you so much for this eye-opening meeting. Please, can you share practical insight on how to get to the point where you are able to capture a vision for the next 50 years? Go to my YouTube, Dr. S. Akintayo on YouTube. I did a 2-part series on goal setting, right? And we did it. One was December, one was January. My one was there. It was fantastic, and I shared in detail how you set goals, 1 year goal, 5 year goal, 20-year goal, right? And I'm sure it's going to be very helpful. Thank you, Oluwafemi, for your question. Mesha says, good evening, important question. I run a small business. I give 10% tithe. I also give another 10% to support missionaries. And we've been doing this since September 2020. Sometimes it's not easy, but we try and give 20%. Is that right? So my argument is this: there's nothing right or wrong. When it comes to giving, is a choice, right? Is an expression of love. Tithe is 10% according to the Old Testament. And in the New Testament, we are not under the law, we're under grace. And so you are free to still do 10%. You are free to even do 50% if you want. it's an expression of love, but you cannot take the entire income of your business and say you are tithing it. That's what we're saying. That's wrong. Okay, the way you should run your business is this: every year, let them analyze what was the profit. If you are the 100% shareholder of your company, right, you might need to say 30% of the profit goes back into the company, and it's a good practice to run. Then out of the 70%, the company can then decide to give you the entire 70% profit to your personal account. When that money comes into your account, that you can now pay a tithe of it, because that's now your company profit, right? But sometimes, for people who run big businesses, let's assume your profit for the entire year was, I'm just giving an example, was 1 billion, right? That was paid to your account as your profit as the major shareholder. That was the tithe of your company. You can then, out of that 1 billion, still be giving yourself a portion to say, okay, I will be taking to myself 200 million, right? And that's where you can now separate to say, out of the 200 million that I'm to spend, I want to still pay 10% of that, and I want to pay 10% of the total profit that was given to me. Because I've seen people run their business down in the name of tithing, where they take what is not yet their own. The overall, and some, there are regulations. So some of you are running fintech, where you can't just dip your hand into the treasury and then say you are paid tithe. Some of you are running real estate company. People pay for land or house, then you take 10% of the entire money they paid you and say you pay tithe. That's wrong. That's not how they pay tithe. I say corporate tithe. No. And whoever is saying that, it's not wrong. I also need you to know, even the 10% tithe in itself, in the New Testament, we do it from the place of love. So this whole issue of if I don't pay tithe, I will not go to heaven, that you at least has clarified that. We do it based on love. It's not from compulsion. It's not from, if I don't pay tithe, I'll go to hell. God will not have mercy on me. God will not help me. Things will be tight. No. We love God and we give. And we're kingdom people.